Time in history when all sentient beings, animals, plants, trees, and the earth are intent on creating this change. The wolves awakened her to the most incredible light, which opened gifts and brought knowledge that she longs to share. You are creators, and you were born to be creators of beauty, possibility, and joy. Join Julia on a journey into a beautiful and magical world where amazing possibilities exist. Let us help open the door. The power of inspiration and awakening with Julia Griffin starts right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin at OneTrueSelf.com, ONETrueSelf.com, and you're listening to The Power of Inspiration and Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio. Today, I'm talking with Penelope Jean Hayes about viral energy. We're going to talk about energy in general, manifesting, and how you can create a wonderful life and open the door to possibility and joy. So stay with us for the next hour. Let me tell you about Penelope. Penelope Jean Hayes is the foremost leader in the field of contagious and osmotic energy, known as viral enology, and she has appeared on television hundreds of times as an expert guest, including for Dr. Phil, ABC News, and internationally. Penelope founded the Viral Energy Institute for Personal, Interpersonal, and Planetary Wellness, which is located in Naples, Florida, where she studies global viral contemplation for unity, viral energy masses and their effects, energy manifestation at the quantum level, elevating to higher levels of consciousness, and the merging of science and metaphysics. Penelope taps into spiritual wisdom through a process that she calls osmotic energy balancing, which is a type of cognizant meditation that allows her to access and channel her stream of higher self-consciousness. She is the author of best-selling books, The Magic of Viral Energy and Dew into Earth. Currently, Penelope is co-hosting a new series for television called Conspiracy Detectives. Welcome, Penelope. I'm so happy to have you today.
Thanks, Julia. I'm so happy to be here.
It's so exciting to get to talk about energy. But tell us a little bit about how you moved into your work and what it is that you do.
Sure. My background was in public relations, and I had worked in that field for many years and was quite successful and had a great job, but I was unfulfilled. I knew in my spirit that there was more for me to do and more that my spirit wanted to do and to contribute to the world. And so I had gained experience in that field. I then became an on-camera talent and was with ABC News for 5 years doing on-camera work. And that was great. And I see in retrospect the plethora of experiences and tools that I gathered for the work that I do today. And when I had for many years had this dream inside to share my experiences, my personal journey, which was quite marred at times. I had a difficult journey for many years, and I had wanted to help other people traverse their own journeys and to find their own happiness and inner purpose and fulfillment. And so I began meditating in the forest. I would go out into nature almost on a daily basis. And this was very transformational for me in that it just really became something that a lot of information was being, I would say downloaded from a higher source. And I would just begin to just write down. I would bring a pen and paper with me into the forest. And so I began to write a lot of my ideas, and the philosophy of viral energy came through that way. So eventually I was able to segue into that as a full-time career and founded the Viral Energy Institute for the study of viral enology. And there's a lot to unpack there, Julia, so I'll start with that.
Okay, I want to say, though, it's very clear to me that you had a calling and you moved into that. And I want to add, for people who are not aware of this, I've probably spent half my life in the woods, literally, and being outdoors with wolves is what raised my energy level so much. So I actually think that nature plays a big part in awakening. Do you have a feeling about that?
Oh, it is. I mean, this was the transformation for me. So my father had grown up at the border of the Northwest Territories in Canada and was one of the, you know, white families is actually what they called them in a community of Indigenous people, First Nations people. And so he had learned a lot of the ways of the First Nations peoples and had passed that on to myself and my sister. It was just something that we were raised with, the wisdom of First Nations peoples, the wisdom of nature, which is their belief, and indeed animals, the wisdom of animals. So I had already had that throughout my life as kind of like a baseline. It was just something that, you return to. If you want to balance yourself, you return to nature. And so then in my adult years, I started doing that. So I had suffered from depression. I was very unfulfilled. I had gone through a number of breakups, had an engagement that broke up, and then was quite suicidal on one New Year's Eve. After that experience, I did make it through that New Year's Eve. And after that, I dedicated my life, really literally made a conscious decision to dedicate my life to what I already knew was my purpose. I just wasn't doing it. I wasn't, walking that. I wasn't helping other people. I wasn't sharing myself with others. I kept it all to myself. And I thought that I had a lot of things in my past that were just not something that you share with other people. It was embarrassing. I didn't want to share those sides of me. So for many years, I lived in fear that I better just keep that to myself. And so it limited me from being able to do the work that I do today because I was not willing to open myself up until I started spending that time in nature. So I would go out into nature and I would go for, it was all day, Julia. So I would just sit there, bring a little bit of, like a bag of almonds and some water, and I would just sit in nature. And I knew that nature balances our energy. I just knew this. You can feel that. Anyone can go into
Oh,
nature
yeah.
and feel that. Or, conversely, you can go on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange and feel that energy too, or the energy of a traffic jam in LA. So we know these things. They're not this woohoo out there thing. This is now even part of our vernacular these days. It's becoming more and more acceptable to talk about it, but it's very basic stuff that we know to be true because we know it for ourselves. So this did transform me. And just like if you were to take let's say you had a hot water balloon, it's a water balloon, but this water's hot, and you drop that hot water balloon into this cool pool of water, the larger energy always wins. So the larger concentration of energy always wins. So I was that hot water balloon, hopped up from the city and from my life and all the goings on and the dramas. And to go out into nature was that cool pool of water, the higher concentration of energy of nature. And so I knew that this would balance my energy. I just knew that, and it did. And to do that as a practice, and it's, you don't even have to do anything. You don't have to go and meditate. You don't have to try to not think. You just be, just be, just be still in nature. And I would bring that pen and paper with me and start writing down ideas. And I was like, where are these ideas coming from? Because it just seemed like these were just, wow, these ideas were coming from a higher place within my own consciousness. And I was opening up to that. So dissolving the toxins and those things in the way of that light energy to come through. So it was
my experience with nature is that if you're even just beginning to know what you want or feeling your calling, if you sit outside and you think about it, and you don't even have to think about it, you can just be very still and feel nature. I truly believe that nature corrects our manifestations and gives us a flow of energy that we can express. And I think it's way underrated because I think that's an incredible thing that nature helps us create what we want.
It's so underrated, and this is the work that you do. And I was absolutely amazed when I listened to some of your work and some of your talks prior to this interview together. I was so amazed, Julia, at the things that you were saying are so in line with what I teach. And it's an incredible thing. And I've said for many years, and I understand that you say this as well in your teachings, that the energy of nature is already perfectly balanced. It's vibrating in perfect harmony. It already does that naturally, and it doesn't need to try, and it's not by choice. And it is us that have the free will to choose all the choices that we make along the roads and all those, forks in the roads. And we choose to vibrate out of harmony. And it is through that free will choice that we do that. But one of those incredible tools, if not, the best tool, is to synchronize our energy with nature.
It really is. That's like almost a free ride for people who are listening and want to get it together. Now,
That's
something
it.
that you say in The Magic of Viral Energy, and I love this, is that all energy is contagious. I'm an empath, so I absolutely know it. But
Mm-hmm.
most people aren't aware of that. My other question with it is that I tend to, as do many people, to attribute it to emotion. But you
Mm-hmm.
say it's much more. So help us out with that.
Sure. First of all, to explain what viral energy is, it's the contagious nature of energy and social interactions in the environments all around us. And so we know that a smile is infectious and laughter is contagious, and the negatives are too. And we talked about that briefly earlier. So we know that for ourselves on a base level. But it's important to understand that contagious is the nature of all energy. So whether we like it or not, the good, the bad, and the ugly are all contagious in those environments. And it works through osmosis. So we do hear a lot about the law of attraction, and that's like energy attracts like energy. So viral energy is actually another aspect of how energy behaves, and that is by osmosis. It's a passive experience. So simply by being in a certain environment or energy temperature, energy vibration, we pick up that vibration around us and we also contribute to the energy around us. So we are contagious to energy, energy is contagious back to us. And so that is and that is because our being has a semi permeable membrane. So that presence that is us, that energy vibration that is us, actually has a semi permeable membrane. So osmosis is the process by which molecules move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration through a semi-permeable membrane until the concentrations are balanced on each side. So that is how it works. And emotion, I know that emotions are great descriptors, but where your point of influence here with viral energy is actually your presence. So the presence this isn't the presence of showing up for someone or to be physically in a place. This presence is your energy vibration. That energy being that is you, is your energetic presence. And that presence is affected by those environments that you surround yourself with, but also by your consciousness, your intention. And all of these things together make that energy presence that is you. And that is actually the point at which you are vibrating. And that is what is incredibly important. So emotions come and go, and they can be influenced. Like I could feel sad right now, and in an hour from now, I could feel happy. So emotions are really acute, whereas your presence is something more chronic. It's something that is developed or earned over a period of time. It doesn't come and go as quickly.
Right. And it also makes me think about in alchemy, they teach that cohesion, when the molecules stick together, that's something that we should be learning to do with our presence, is to have it so that it's strong enough that it can refuse some of this, or that it's easier for us to project our light or our energy field. Do you tend to agree?
Oh, absolutely. And this is mindfulness. So, in terms of mitigating those energies around you and how can you protect yourself? So, I like to say, force fields up, and it's one of these things that it's a matter of mindfulness. So, to reference a little Star Trek here, it is a matter of mindfulness, and it's a simple thing. And sometimes the simple things are the best things, and it just is a lot of common sense involved here. But most of us go through life and we just let everything in, whether that's the craziness on television and the news these days and everything that's going on in this political temperature and all of these things. And most people tend to just, let everything flow through them and come in and go back out. And then they wonder why they're feeling a certain way. So that's where the emotions come in. So after this chronic barrage of those energies around you, you do start to feel a certain way, and emotions that stick around for a long time that become, chronic, that can lead into depression. So those things that don't come and go, but have just been your daily experience for a long enough time can lead to more serious things. So it is important to mitigate that. And it really starts with mindfulness. There's a lot more we can do, but mindfulness is the beginning.
Okay, let's go to break, and we'll come back and talk about mindfulness. So far, we've been talking about emotions, our physical presence, how the earth helps us heal and manifest things. We're going to go much more deeply into this with Penelope Jean Hayes when we come back. And we'll talk about spiritual energy and the power of creation. So let's go to break now. We'll be right back.
I have had such a good time on Tales from the Merworld Radio. It has been an opportunity for me to expand myself so dramatically and become much braver in my voice, to speak about the things that I'm passionate about that are a little bit out there. Your staff is amazing. Olivia is amazing. Jessica, everybody. Anytime I need anything, they show up right away. So thank you for having such an amazing team that is allowing me this platform to do what Spirit wants me to do.
Hi, I'm Laura Goldstein, and here's a Coffee with the Universe tip. It's no secret that anxiety and overwhelm are on the rise. While the tendency is to suppress these feelings, anxiety is really a messenger that's telling you something is off, very off. You might be shooting yourself and living a life based on someone else's expectations. Maybe you have trouble saying no. Or maybe you're following the fearful voice in your head that demands you do more, be more in order to feel worthy. So see where you can make a few adjustments in what you're doing to get rid of the overwhelm and create more peace inside instead. To get more tips like this, tune into my Transformation Talk radio show called Coffee with the Universe. It's a live call-in show. I'd love to chat with you.
Tune in to the show Heart Change Consciousness with me, Dr. Trish DeRocher, as stories of inspired activism come to life. Listening to conversations with your favorite authors, change makers, and many more who practice inspired spiritual activism and transform vulnerabilities into sources of strength. Let's be inspired together through my show Heart Change Consciousness on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Are you ready to let go of the I can'ts that are holding you down? Valerie Trujillo invites you to join her community on a mission to collectively heal as a tribe, where your vulnerability is heard and reciprocated. So tune in to Love and Light with the Crystal Blue Oracle every second and fourth Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more information about Valerie and her work, visit crystalblueoracle.com.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin at OneTrueSelf.com, ONETrueSelf.com, and you're listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening on Transformation Talk Radio, where you can experience a higher vibration and a new state of mind. I'm talking with Penelope Jean Hayes about our spiritual journey, and we're going to talk about manifesting. One of the very interesting things that she presents is what she calls strata, which is a set of frequencies. There's 7 of them. And what we're creating and what we're experiencing is associated on what level we're on. Now, I've noticed this in the past in Walmart, that people are on different levels. They dress the same. They buy the same things. So they're all demonstrating specific frequencies. So I'm going to go to Penelope now and let her tell us about the strata because it's quite fascinating.
Thank you. So at the Viral Energy Institute, we did interview hundreds of people. And through that process, we determined that there are 7 stratas of energy in which we operate on. So we always hear this saying to go with the flow, or you're in the flow, or you have to go with the flow. But what is the flow? The flow is, right? What's the flow? And what becomes really important is to know what flow you're in. So going with the flow, as we determined through our research, is that you are in flow with a certain energy strata. And I'll just review what those are before I go on. So at the very bottom is the strata that we labeled hell. And this just, it's self-explanatory. We kind of know what hell is. This is where guilt resides, lostness, the material underworld, fear, illusion, violence, separation. Above that is the strata of ignorance. And ignorance is energy toxicity, it's smallness, it's anger, it's greed, it's being stuck, it's envy, it's obsession, it's stagnation, hatred, all of those types of things. Above that is the strata of indifference. Indifference is this, septic energy, it's detachment, it's jealousy, it's disloyalty, it's inflexible beliefs, pessimism, all of these type of things. Above that is the strata of wanting. And that's where it starts getting interesting for us on our journey, our spiritual awakening. This is the beginning of spiritual curiosity. It still is conditional relationships. It still is loneliness, overwhelmment, infatuation, need, regret, concern, confusion, vanity, all of these types of things. From there, we start to really lighten up. There's a big jump to the next strata, which is awareness. And awareness is where forgiveness resides, patience, seeking, balance, optimism, compassion, enthusiasm, introspection. Above that is creation. And creation, this is just a wonderful place. This is where it's at. This is light. This is fulfillment, acceptance, guardianship, wholeness, well-being, authenticity. And then the seventh strata is something that most of us won't really experience in this lifetime. It's the strata of heaven. You would think just heaven on earth. This is the spiritual penthouse, complete unconditional love, enlightenment. So those are the strata. And when we say that we're in the flow, we have to really look at what flow we're in. So what you are experiencing is what you are in flow with. And so if you're sitting there going, but I would rather have, a better relationship or, to really live out my purpose. And I would suggest that, are you in flow with your purpose? Are you in flow with that better relationship? And if that's not what you're experiencing, you're simply not in flow with it. So then the project and the challenge and the opportunity becomes raising your strata.
Okay, I love this because I always say whatever we desire is on a higher frequency. We may not even have experienced that frequency yet, but that's the frequency that we have to get to if we want to create. And I love your discernment with it and how it goes in levels. So that's the first thing I think for people to understand is they're not yet on the level or the strata that holds their frequency. So that inner growth must be part of what takes you there, right?
Yes, inner growth, but also, back to osmosis, it is that energy is viral and it's a passive experience. And so to become mindful, and this is where action comes in, you do have to take action. So if you feel like you're stagnating in your life, think of the image of a pond and it stagnates. And without fresh water, it just stagnates. So you have to take action to bring new water into your pond. That might be, moving, changing jobs, changing relationship. You're going to have to do something about it. So it's not, viral energy is passive in how it operates. But if you want to elevate to a higher strata, that higher flow, where all of the things that you desire are in flow with, then you're going to have to take action to actively raise your presence. And your presence, again, is that energy beingness that is you. And that is a factor and a result of your inner intentions, your belief system, your consciousness. And, intention's really everything. Intention is that point of attraction. So if you can just do one thing, look at what it is that you intend in this life. What are your intentions for yourself, for your purpose, your own goals, but towards other people? What place are you coming from as you interact with other people? And from that intention will stem all good things in your life.
Okay, so let's make really simple example. Let's say that I decide I'm going to get in really great shape. We know that if I visualize that, because there have been so many experiments with it, if I visualize it, it will happen much more quickly. But at some point, I'm going to have to run or do yoga or take out weights. You have to make a change in physical reality and how you respond to it to elicit a change on an overall level. I think that's what you're saying.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. That it's, there is the factor too of our thoughts, and that our thoughts, even if we're exercising and we think we're doing all of the right things, we're eating well, what type of self-talk are you telling yourself? And that thought and the way that you treat yourself and how you talk about yourself are energy formations that go out into the world, and they have a physical effect in this world exactly the same as your physical exercise does. So to not negate energy and to not negate that thought is energy and how you talk to yourself. So if while you're exercising, you're trying to get in this great physical shape, you're kind of going to your boyfriend, oh, I'm fat, I can't fit into that dress, I'm fat, or, I am are commands to the universe to create something. And so these are very powerful energy formations. And so you could also add to what it is that you're doing to get in shape, the positive self-talk, and to change how you're speaking to yourself. So I think a lot of us do that.
Yeah, and so there are many levels of it. It's multi-layered, and that's an important thing to know. Something else that you said that I like so much is that everyone has the choice of deciding how much light or darkness comes into their consciousness. A lot of people think that they're in the light all the time because they study or go to classes, but it's almost a moment-to-moment decision, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is. And it is coming from your foundational intentions. So if you set an intention early on and you say, this is what I will allow and this is what I don't allow, then it makes those choices easier. As the choices come up, you're like, you already know what you need to do. But a lot of us do that. We undermine ourselves by letting other people undermine our dreams, and we don't have to. That is actually a choice. So if you have a family member or a friend or someone who doesn't support your dreams, that it is important for you to say, I don't accept that. I love you, and at the same time, I don't accept anyone undermining my dreams. So you make those decisions.
Right. And so it's constantly making conscious decisions as to where we end up in the strata.
It is. And it's all choice, and it's exciting, actually. And the more you do it, the more it works for you. So it's just like creation. Creation is a generator. The more you're creating, the more creation happens, the more you're able to create. So the more you're creating, it's generating this positive energy in your life, this light energy, and the more you're able to create. And it does work that way, that as you get into it, as you start practicing this muscle, whether that's the muscle of raising your light energy, your consciousness, your intention, protecting your energy, all of these things, as you practice them and live them out, you get more of that. You get more of the tools, the resources to move towards your purpose.
Well, our power shield, or the cohesion, as we spoke of earlier, begins to hold everything in place, I think, if we practice regularly.
It does. Well, the universe wants to conspire to help us live out our purpose and to be that purpose. And you would just be amazed as you step into that and as you honor that and as you start taking action, how the universe will conspire to bring you the resources and the people and the connections. And it's really just amazing. I remember back when I was, in my years of depression, and I would vision board like crazy. I had all the vision boards, and I had the vision board on the ceiling and the vision board that I could see from my bed. And I had, writing on my bathroom mirror, and I was doing all the things. I was reading all the books, and still I was suffering with unfulfillment, with general unhappiness. I was like, why? I'm doing all of this personal development, and I'm learning all these things, and I truly believe it, and I'm doing my affirmations, but the affirmations weren't really manifesting. But you do have to add the action, and you do have to take that action. You can't just, sit there lying on your bed, reading your affirmations or looking at your vision board. you have to take action. And so that's a huge part of it as well.
That's wonderful. So let me tell everyone, we've been talking about energy. We've been talking about strata, which are different frequencies or different levels of consciousness, and manifestation, as well as why actions are so important, with Penelope Jean Hayes. When we come back, we'll talk about the potential power of creating the heart's desire and the importance of it on the soul's journey. Let's go to break now.
The Truth is Funny, Shift Happens, with monthly guest host Karen Benton. Tune in for powerful conversations about health and wellness. Karen brings unique insights rich with humor and science to her discussions with experts in medicine, movement, psychology, spirituality, and so much more. Don't miss Karen on The Truth is Funny every third Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more information about Karen, visit KarenBenton.com.
Mind to Heart with me, Craig Richardson, carves a pathway from your mind to your heart to activate that innate compass to overcome whatever life sends your way. As an intuitive life coach, I am ready to guide you to an amazing life. Tune in live every second and fourth Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com. For more information about me, visit CraigERichardson.com.
Can't get enough of I Have Soul Radio? Join Psychic Medium Jamie every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. Take a deeper look at the raw side of spirit. Nothing is off limits. Connect with lost loved ones and explore these vulnerable subjects with the compassionate guidance of Psychic Medium Jamie. You are not alone. I Have Soul, Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, only on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Hi, I'm Trish Laub from A Cup of Comfort, where we talk about Care Hero topics that nobody wants to talk about. Here's your Care Hero tip of the day. During all Care Hero journeys, the need to keep track of a lot of information arises, some of it critical. Possibly the greatest challenge Care Heroes face is the gathering and organizing of information. Just as every trade has a power tool, whether an electric drill or a laptop, my family's Care Hero power tool was the 3-ring binder. We generated a mini library of labeled 3-ring binders, one for each category of information, complemented with additional spiral notebooks used to detail medical appointments and episodes. This unfussy and convenient system of binders helped my family stay organized and able to deliver the dignified care and end of life my parents desired. Tune into my show to learn more. See you on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 12 Pacific here on Transformation Talk Radio. Feel free to reach out to me at info@trishlaub.com.
Hello, everyone. I'm Julia Griffin at OneTrueSelf.com, ONETrueSelf.com. And you're listening to The Power of Inspiration and Awakening, where you can experience a higher vibration in a new state of mind. My special guest, Penelope Jean Hayes, is going to talk to us about the importance of manifesting, your higher journey and your higher self, and creating a life that's in alignment with that. So stay with us for the next half hour. So Penelope, if someone is aware and wants to begin creating, what's your advice? Personally, I think most people are unaware of how much they're already manifesting because it's subconscious or semi-conscious.
Oh, sure. Well, you're manifesting and you're creating all the time, whether you're aware of it or not. This is what you're doing. So the life that you're experiencing, you created it. So, you can begin to use, you're very powerful. And I'm speaking to everyone. You are so powerful. And you have created the life that you're experiencing. So I would encourage everyone to be more mindful about how you're creating and what you're choosing. And we can do this. It's very small things, but it is about mitigating your environments and your energy, and to know that you are so important. Why would you let negativity barrage you on a daily basis, whether that be the news or that one particular friend that calls and she's full of drama, and yet you were just about to start an important meeting or an important podcast, or you were about to create and sit down and write something, and then you took that phone call or whatever that was. We do this and we know what the results are going to be. But I'm here to tell you that you are so important, and your energy is important, because your energy, that presence that is you, is what you are creating your life with. It is the fuel for what you create your relationships with, what you fulfill your purpose with. This is where you're drawing from, that internal presence. And so you are so important, and your dreams and goals are so important. So you better start acting like it.
Mm-hmm. I want to add to this. This is a very interesting thing. The wolves could read everything about me. And so they immediately started encouraging me to manifest a few things. Mm-hmm. And they would send me like a wave of pure energy, and I could see it so clearly. And I would notice for like the next hour after that, I would have so many negative thoughts come to the surface, and I was just amazed that I even had them. I would have told you, I'm so positive about this. This is something I really want. So people need to be aware that we think a lot of negative things and feel them, but it doesn't make that real.
Mm-hmm. Well, and often it is in the presence of darkness that you can know what light is, and that we, do live in a world of duality. And you're presented with these choices. So as you have these visualizations or these memories or these fears come up, it can be looked at too as an opportunity to choose the light, and to choose to visualize the light that you want in your life. So we can focus on the things that we're afraid of, but that's not really going to manifest what you want. So, there are conscious choices that we make all the time, but when you're experiencing something wonderful and the things that you do want, like the visualizations that were being brought to you, sometimes we also have those negativities, those fears in the back of our mind, our smaller self saying like, well, you can't do that. And that's just the little voice in the back of our head. And I think that we need to understand how powerful we are to overcome that and just say, you know what? I don't accept that. Step aside, smaller self, because I'm here.
Yeah, and it doesn't make it real. It was just interesting because I've noticed this in other people who really pursue their dreams. At some point, you recycle that energy into a higher vibration if you succeed. So yes. I wanted to ask you this about the higher self. When more people awaken and live at a higher frequency, do you think their vibration will make huge changes in the world? Eclipsing some of the desires to hurt and control each other?
This is it. This is just so exciting. So as we within our own selves live at our purest higher consciousness, we're spreading that virally to the people around us. And then that spreads to other people. And this is how we raise consciousness. So collective consciousness is raised by you. And every person has the ability to contribute to higher consciousness. And so as we do that as a population, as a world population, we get to a place, your higher self can't hurt animals, war with other people, fight within your own family. So at that higher level of consciousness, this just isn't possible because you're operating at a higher level of consciousness. So when we want to change the world, we just start with ourselves and we emulate that to the world around us. And it is contagious and it will catch on. And we are into a period right now. We've entered into a period that you could call it the new age. But we are in a period where there is consciousness working to help all of us kind of lift up. So we do have help from collective consciousness right now, and we are moving out of that unconscious way of living into a more mindful way of living.
Thank you. I think that is one of the most hopeful things about this time. Mm-hmm. So an interesting thing that you say is that you have to align with the right viral energy to avoid recreating the same life or aspects of it. So what's your best method with that?
It's a funny, there's a couple little funny stories I use in the book, The Magic of Viral Energy. So my father, when I was young, my father would say, oh, if you want new clothes, you have to clear out the old clothes in your closet that you aren't using. Why have a closet just packed with stuff that either doesn't fit or you don't like and you're just not using it? So I would do that. I would say, okay, let's test this theory. He would call it the vacuum effect. So I would get rid of all of the clothes that I wasn't wearing, didn't like. And yes, somehow magically new clothes, they just like the voids will be filled. And so to extrapolate that to energy, energy will fill the void. So you want to, make that void in a space where what's going to happen is the energy that it's immediately around the void will fill in, woof, like a vacuum. And so are you just going to get more of the same stuff? Are you going to have more of the same relationship? Or are you going to be dating the next person and it's the same type of a guy or the same type of a job as the one you just quit because you didn't like it? So you really want to look at what is that energy that you're surrounding your life with, because when you create a void, you have to be prepared ahead of time. So if that means that you need to change things up in your personal world before creating a void, look at it. Look at the people that you hang out with, the friends in your life, what you're watching on TV, what you're reading. Try to become more mindful. And yeah, it might be a little bit of, you could almost say work or some personal growth, but who's the beneficiary of this? You are, and your life is important and your life purpose is important. So if you want to change things, you need to be mindful to not just bring in more of the same.
Right. And another thing, let's add to this, if you can get to a point of being in the void or stillness, anything that you visualize, even for just 3 or 4 minutes, tends to pop right in because you don't have any conflicting energy with it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to a higher frequency, let's add that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that can be a practice.
You're right. And it can be a wonderful practice because things do happen very quickly if you learn how to use that stillness. And it's in almost every philosophy or religion.
That's right.
Now, one of the really interesting things that you say is that some women don't marry because they hide the less likable parts of themselves because they think they're unacceptable. And I'm sure everybody's done this at one point or another. So how do you correct or change that?
Mm-hmm. So I have, I'm going to use another just story example. I have a cousin who stayed with the same boyfriend for 7 years. They lived together and she wanted to get married because they're in their 30s and she wanted to get on with it already. And it just wasn't happening. They would talk about it. He just wasn't ready. There was some red flags in the relationship where he didn't really introduce her to some people as his girlfriend, just said, oh, this is, her first name. And so he wasn't, there were signs that she just wasn't getting what she wanted out of the relationship. So why would you want to marry this person? So she was denying her true self. She was denying what she really wanted. And I would suggest that if it's not working in that time frame, that you're not getting what you want out of it and you're being denied in some ways, or your inner self is not, you're not showing the other person to say, you know what, this is unacceptable. I would suggest that, it's okay to break up. It's okay to say, look, this is just not working for me. And if that jolts the relationship to the next level and the person realizes that, wait a minute, this is really what I want. But she just kind of carried on with that for such a long period of time. So I would say that we have to be honest about who we are and what we want if we ever want to get what we want. To not go into relationships just trying to fulfill what the other person wants or trying to kind of be quiet because you don't want to ruffle the feathers, you don't want to scare him off. That's just never going to work. And that will just waste you 7 years of your life. So we do, men and women, all of us in relationships and in friendships, need to be honest about who we are and what we want.
You also say that they have to be on the same strata to connect. So how does that work?
Yeah, so water will always seek its own level, and relationships are the same. So water, let's say it's behind a dam, and on one side that water level is super high and it's just creating this pressure on the dam because it wants to connect with its own self. It wants to connect with the water on the other side of the dam, which is probably, dropped down at a different level, being held back by this dam. But that power of water always wants to connect with itself, seek its own level. And it could be trickling down the side of a mountain, but it just wants to seek its own level. Relationships are like that too. So while opposites can attract, and this is a good thing, it might be that initial, I want to see if this person's vibe matches with me. I want to try out this other vibe. This is really interesting. I've never done this before. This, attracts me. But on basic levels, water will want to seek its own level, and so will your beingness within a relationship, that you would want to grow with that person to, reach a certain level of homeostasis with your energy. And so these aren't your likes or dislikes or surface or superficial things. You can have opposites attract, that, I like chocolate, you don't. This is fine. But on an energetic level and with your, deep inner selfhood, you will want to be on the same level with that person. And if you're not, no matter how hard you try, it's just not going to work.
Everybody's had, or most people have had at least one relationship like that, and it never works. It doesn't matter how hard you try, because it's not about who you really are.
That's it.
So another thing that you say that I love is we don't always have to feel positive or aligned, but it's more about our energetic presence, which is about our chosen purpose, our intentions, and the degree of light or heavy energy from the people with whom we spend time.
That's exactly right. Mm-hmm.
So tell us more about that, and how do you figure out when you're in alignment and when you're out of alignment?
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that is super popular in the last decade or even decade and a half is law of attraction. And so when we have read these books about law of attraction, one of the things that seems to come up a lot is the idea of, I have to send out positive thoughts. I have to have a positive emotion to attract back to me the same. So like attracts like. And so the problem with that is just there's a misunderstanding with how the law of attraction works. For a lot of people, if it's not working for them, then there's probably a misunderstanding there. And the misunderstanding is that, well, wait a minute, what if I'm having a bad day? Or what if I'm going through a divorce? I'm having a bad year. What if I'm having a bad decade? What on earth am I attracting to myself? Because I feel this way. I mean, I'm genuinely going through a really tough time. Now I have the additional fear that I'm attracting more bad stuff to me. And if I'm thinking that, well, now my thoughts are going out into the world, and you probably are attracting that. So it is not the acute emotions that are the point of attraction, so that you can have a bad day. You can even be going through a really bad period of your life, and still your point of attraction can be your intention, your consciousness, that higher consciousness, which is intention, is where thoughts come from. So thoughts will be spawned from that intention. From our thoughts then become action. So it goes like this, like dominoes. So you can start with intention. And even if I'm going through the worst circumstances of my life, or I'm having a really bad day, or someone just hit my car in traffic, and now I've got this big problem, whatever's going on, do you still have your deep inner intentions? Do you still have the beingness that is you? That is your presence. That plus what you surround yourself with. So it's this formula, it's your intentions, your consciousness, mix that with the environments that you surround yourself with. Can you mitigate the negative? Can you, look at surrounding yourself with light a little candle on your desk, play a little music, these little things that we can do to tweak our environments. They all add to that beingness, that vibration that is you. So altogether, that is the presence. That is your point of attraction. Not that, I'm admitting into the world this, emotion because I just had a car accident or I'm going through a divorce. So we need not worry that is the, entire factor, because it's not. It's a small portion of it. And those things can come and go if we center ourselves in our presence.
And we can actually go deeper during those times, because things like meditation, quiet time, maybe chanting or thinking about the light can, be a huge resource and really take you into a better place for when you come out of all those events that are happening. Or at least I think that.
Well, there's no doubt. If it wasn't for the things... Now, Julia, I was a runaway at 15 years old. I was homeless. Later in my 20s, I was the victim of domestic violence and had an abusive relationship, ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks. I had a number of things in my life that you would say are the worst possible things. And I would tell you on the other side of it that I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if it wasn't for those type of experiences that formed me into a person who's extremely empathetic to what other people go through. It taught me. It was the university education to do the work that I'm doing today. And so, yeah, when you're in the middle of it, you just had a car accident, you're going through a hard time, a divorce, or someone, you have a breakup, a fresh breakup. It can be really hard to see the forest for the trees. But I promise you that all of those things are part of your journey, and it's how you infer it, how you use it. And there's a lot there that can be used for good. So that, again, is a choice.
I agree. Difficult times give you a lot of energy and a lot of understanding of other people. And many people who are spiritual go through that. It seems to be a common thing, a common thread.
Sure. And, I would say we all go through it. And if you haven't yet, you will. And it's just called life. And before I became an author, I had stopped myself from doing some of those life purposes and missions because I didn't want to share these things about myself. There was a time where I would never tell you that I was a runaway at 15 years old. I have best friends. My husband, before we got married, didn't know that. I think we were engaged before I told him. And so that's just where I was at that time. But then I changed that. I became willing to share myself and my story. And because I did that, oh my goodness, everything just opened up and I'm able to live the life that I do today, the purpose that I have today, because I was finally willing to overcome my fear of maybe rejection, and to share those aspects of my life. So yes, the beauty.
I'm going to suggest that you moved out of victim consciousness, and it didn't seem as bad to you when you did, and then it was easier to talk to other people about it.
I was more in complete not wanting to. I think it was putting up a false perception of who I was. To be perfectly honest with you, I was a television personality. I had great success in my career, and I wanted people to see me a certain way. I didn't want to be seen as the person who had trouble as a teenager, that cliche. And so I just decided I wouldn't tell anyone. So for me, I wasn't sitting in victimhood. I was sitting in a falsehood of who I was, and thought that I would be, maybe rejected if people knew some of these parts of my journey, that maybe they would see me differently. And it was the exact opposite was true. When I opened up about those things, I realized that people were saying, oh, well, I had that too. You know how many people actually had difficulties? 15 seems to be the number for a lot of people, where they either left home for a period of time or had great difficulties struggling as a teenager, coming into their own self. And, some
Certainly
of the other...
true for me.
See,
I'll go with 15.
There you go. And so now we can connect on these levels where you're like, oh, Penelope's just this real person who's had stuff just like me. She's not at some elevated level of like, look at her glamorous life. No, we all go through these things. It's probably just more a matter of, are you sharing yourself with others, or you haven't chosen that yet?
Right. So I like what you say with home is where the heart is. And you said this should be our mantra, and we can release sad stories. I think of my home as my heart space or within my inner self, but I have a lot of memories too. So how do we deal with that while we're nourishing our energetic presence and making things happen?
So my backstory was that home had eluded me, and my personal journey was one where I felt I didn't have a home. And so I didn't really have that place to call home. Even my parents, who are two of my best friends to this day, they don't live in the house that I grew up in. So me physically home had eluded me. And I just didn't have that foundation. And it was a journey for me that eventually I realized that home is a place inside. Home is recognizing who I truly am, and to honor who I am, and to share myself with other people. And so it was just this amazing freedom to realize that, wow, home isn't a place. Home is an actual energy vibration of accepting yourself, knowing yourself, believing in myself. and to believe in myself and the power that I have to manifest in this world, that I can do and create anything that I set my mind to. I can certainly try. It's a very freeing thing. And so that the mantra is that home is your true self. And that's a place within your heart. That's a place within your soul.
It's our North Star, the point that never changes and is always trying to give us direction in life.
And you'll always have it. So it can't be taken away from you. It's not this outside source. And we're not even now talking about, a house or a place or your parents' house. Now it's this metaphor of your North Star. And that is that no one can take it away from you, that selfhood. So home is your true self.
And it's also the place where we find answers from within. I know sometimes people think, I'll just sit here and send it up to the universe, and that can be helpful. But it's also helpful to think about that home point within yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that we have the answers within ourselves. And so we can open up that communication portal of our higher self, or you can call it anything you want to call it. Some people call that God energy. Some people call it universal energy. I would suggest that, I call it my higher self, and that we have access to that. And it can be through utilizing the tools of animal communication, as you do. It can be through different modalities, sitting in a forest, just being around the highly vibrating, powerful forest and all of the plants and all of the energy of the animals. There are modalities. Sitting beside a babbling brook, grounding yourself, putting your feet in the ground. There are many modalities that nature provides, but also that it is something that these are just tools. This is inside of us. It's our birthright. It's our birthright to tap into that consciousness, that collected consciousness in the universe, that higher self that is us. It is our birthright. And we simply have to ask and we will receive, to even just say, okay, I'm ready for that. Let's open up to higher consciousness. You're beginning it just by doing that. You're commanding the universe. You're allowing yourself to open up what's already there.
And it is such a beautiful thing. We're coming to the end of our interview, so could you please share any upcoming events and tell our listeners the best way to find you and to tap into all that you do?
Sure. So go to my website, which is just my name, PenelopeJeanHayes.com. And from there, it links to a bunch of things, including the Viral Energy Institute. And at the Institute, we're now in the middle of, because of the pandemic, we're looking to do a lot of things online. We would normally have in-person retreats. There's this great retreat that we do called the Reset Retreat, and we're looking to do that online now. So it would be special guest speakers, people that bring in different modalities for raising energy vibration. And it's just, it's fun and it's healing. So I would encourage people to maybe sign up for my newsletter at PenelopeJeanHayes.com. And from there, you'll get the information as we form the next retreat.
That's wonderful. And it's been wonderful talking to you. So for people who are listening, here's a tip for the rest of the week. Ask for the presence of your inner self. Take 15 minutes and do whatever you received as an answer. Journal, go for a walk, sit outside, meditate. Whatever information you received, act on it and see how you feel, because it's a small step to discovering who you really are. You can sign up for my newsletter on my website, onetrueself.com, onetrueself.com. and receive many tips about astrology, manifesting, and developing on a spiritual level. So thank you so much for being with me and for tuning in. Please join me on the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month at 12 noon Eastern, 11 Central, and 9 a.m. Pacific. Next time, we'll talk with Blossom about love and light and how it can completely change your life in a wonderful way. Have a great week, and I'll see you back here next time.
Thank you for listening to the Power of Inspiration and Awakening Radio with Julia Griffin, to master a higher frequency for a new state of mind. Join us next time as Julia takes us deeper into the memory of the moments of light where transcendence and enlightenment emerge. The memory of the jewel of consciousness is always lived within you. To tap into waves of energy and create huge changes by imagining the beauty of the vision and desires that are hidden in the heart. Learn to find your way back to nature, beauty, and your own heart, which holds the secrets of your existence and future. To discover more about Julia's adventures, animal communication, and the teachings she brings to every show, visit OneTrueSelf.com. That's OneTrueSelf.com. That's ONE, TrueSelf.com.
Views expressed on this program are those of the host, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the station, its management, or advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.